Okay, I want you to take a listen to this again. This is really important from today, earlier today, just a couple hours ago. Take a listen.
And Newsmax, which is the second most watched conservative media outlet in the country today. Do your notes about January 6th reference both Epoch Times and Newsmax as on a list of domestic terrorists?
I'm not recalling this conversation at all.
It's in the book.
It may be in the book. I haven't read the book. I'm not recalling a conversation about Newsmax, Epoch Times.
Do you have a notebook that lists Newsmax and Epoch Times as domestic terrorists as recounted by the Bob Woodward book Peril? Or is Bob Woodward lying to us in the book?
I don't know. I don't recall any conversation about Epoch Times.
Do you believe that Newsmax and Epoch Times are domestic terrorists, or their viewers or readers are domestic terrorists?
No, not at all. I don't think Epoch Times nor Newsmax are domestic terrorist organizations.
Will you produce your notes to this committee?
I'll produce any notes you
relayed
want.
to Bob Woodward in the book that you listed different groups that are responsible for January 6th?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, Peter Schweizer joins us to discuss. He's president of the Government Accountability Institute. Peter, now Newsmax. Now it's us. It's not General Milley. It's not him calling Chinese. It's us. It's our fault. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's remarkable, Eric. I mean, you know, he's not focusing on fighting the real enemies that we have overseas. He's apparently having conversations with Bob Woodward. Either Bob Woodward is flat out lying and exaggerating, which is possible, or General Milley is doing a lot of bob and weaving here. And honestly, I got to tell you, Eric, he had an exchange yesterday where he was asked, you know, was the account that Bob Woodward gives of your conversation with the Chinese general accurate? And he said, oh, well, I didn't actually read the book. So here's a guy that spent hours with Bob Woodward talking to him, telling, you know, his version of events, but he doesn't go and actually read to see whether Bob Woodward actually reported. I think that there needs to be a probe into this. My sense is, based on the response he gave, that Newsmax probably does appear on some document somewhere, because he didn't initially flat out deny it. And if that's the case, we are in a perilous course in this country, because, look, people already, with the experience of the FBI and the intelligence community and what happened in the Trump administration, there's a lot of concerns in this country by a lot of people that these government institutions that have power, that have guns, that have influence, are tipping the scales in favor of one side of the political equation. And we do not want that at all in this country.
Yeah, and we have a picture of Woodward's book where he shows what Milley, what he was discussing with Milley, where he clearly says Newsmax, and it calls us some sort of, I don't know, part of a group of people they named domestic terrorism, a big threat, domestic terrorism. You know, Woodward, like him or not, he's a longtime Washington Post reporter who gets the story. You may not like his angle on the story, and you may think he leans a certain way with the story, but he wouldn't go so far as to credit these, and quote, Milley, a general, Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman, and name him as that, saying that, and not actually having him said that. Is that right?
I think you're generally right, yes. I mean, let's remember Bob Woodward does have a history. He wrote a book called Veil about the Reagan administration, particularly Bill Casey, the CIA director, claiming that he had numerous conversations with you know, him on his deathbed. The Casey family, who I know, publicly said we were with him 24 hours a day in the months before he died. Bob Woodward was never there. So he's been controversial, but I agree with you, Eric. I mean, what he's alleging that Milley wrote is pretty extraordinary and pretty definitive. And if you look at Mark Milley's history, as it were, on some of these other issues about being woke, you know, he strikes you as somebody who's less Army Corps of Engineers than Army Corps of Social Engineering. That you know, he's woke and he's pushing all these initiatives, and that's one of the reasons that he has to go. He has to go because he's politicized his office. But second of all, because of the rank incompetence. I mean, beyond the withdrawal from Afghanistan, remember, he called that drone strike, which ended up killing children and a family, a righteous drone strike.
Righteous strike. Peter, we got to leave it there. We ran out of time, but I got to tell you, you know, it's amazing. And Bob Woodward, let me just one final thought, Peter. Thank you. Bob Woodward would never use quotes. He would never use quotes. He would allude to it. He would never use quotes when talking about Milley. And so, therefore, I believe, and we should all believe, Milley actually said that. Peter Schweizer, thank you again so much for being here.
Always good to be with you. Thanks, Eric.
All right, and for the record, folks,